This is a story from a long, long time ago, from when Pokemon and humans still lived in harmony, and nameless heroes from all corners of the world were sharing the dream of becoming masters. With their spirits pure and crystal clear, it has been almost a year since the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I hope you have already enjoyed a great adventure in Paldea in its homage to the past and future, because maybe the near future of the series has been determined earlier than we thought, with clues that go back more than 20 years. I'm gonna say it right now. I totally believe that these latest releases on Nintendo Switch raise the chances that the next games of the franchise for 2024 will take place in Johto. And if my suspicions are confirmed, in a way that we have never seen, at least according to the clues and hints that today we are going to make theories with. With that said, I hope you're ready, because we're going to the future. My theory is that the next games will take place in Johto many years later, a highly futuristic Johto, very different from the Pokemon world we know. Going back in time again, it all started back in 2020. When we all expected only the announcement of remakes for the 4th gen, they surprised us with a new twist in the series called Legends Arceus, which broke every possible pattern. It was set in Hisui, a Sinnoh from the past with extinct species, ancestors of characters we are well familiar with, and even a completely different relationship between Pokemon and humans. But when we hadn't even been able to get over the shock of this new title, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were also announced, and just with their legendaries, they made it clear that they were going to have past and future as their central theme. We could say that the fusion of both editions gives us the true nature of this generation, living in the present, past, present. It's obvious which is the piece that should close the cycle, right? And the fact is that while everyone is wondering what the main focus of the next release of Legends will be, what past region will be the next to appear, it would be really fitting for Game Freak to break all expectations again, this time taking us to the future, one that closes this cycle of 3 editions that tell us about the importance of the passage of time. And what better candidate to guide us than Celebi, the time travel Pokemon? But you're wrong if you think that's the only thing that made me make this video. There are many clues spread out over the last few years that point to the same idea. The mechanic that turned everything upside down in this gen, terastallization, is still a mystery, and it doesn't seem like anything we've seen before in the series. Or is it? As you can deduce, the first link or clue is the terrestrial phenomenon itself, the transformation of Pokemon into crystals, which gives them a powerful alternative elemental type. It could very well be a hint pointing to Pokemon Crystal, the definitive edition of the 2nd gen games. But that's just scratching the surface, because Crystal was always a strange choice for a title. It's weird to choose that name for an edition surrounded by precious metals and minerals, isn't it? Well, as I pointed out in other videos, I've always been particularly suspicious of the crystal on Suicune's head, which for mysterious and unknown reasons seems to cause Unknown to chase it in the game's intro. Is this symbol the true source of the power of this Pokemon? A crystal on its head that gives the Pokemon strange powers. Does it ring a bell? In the 3rd movie, Spell of the Unknown, Entei is literally an illusion created by the Unknown through, again, the crystal, which the Unknown uses to shape reality. Everything seems to lead over and over to the same place. The crystal, which plays such a key role in Scarlet and Violet, is a core part of the 2nd gen games. That's another link. Going back to the legendary beasts, their legend is well known. They appeared after the resurrection of 3 unfortunate Pokemon that died when the Brass Tower burned. We have always been told that Ho-Oh was the one who brought them back to life, but beyond this legend, there is really no proof of it being capable of such a thing. Let's remember that at this time, legendaries were simply powerful Pokemon avoiding human contact, far from the role of gods that they would take on in the future. Wouldn't it explain a lot if we had been wrongly interpreting the legend all this time? What if Ho-Oh had not been there to resurrect them, but to observe the reaction of the people to the event as its nature dictates, leaving forever disappointed with their cruel response? What if it were the Unknown who did it? They have more than proved their ability to create life and shape reality itself. Suddenly, that seemingly pointless chase of the Unknown in the intro would make sense. They wouldn't be chasing it, but rather observing it as its creators. What if the birth of the legendary Pokemon was a phenomenon very close to terastallization, being thus the 3 forms on their heads, the catalyst of energy that made them legendary? The icing on the cake would be that precisely the second generation introduced an idea blatantly close to the Terastal phenomenon. An expansion of the card game featured Crystal Pokémon, which, yes, could simply be a reference to the name of the edition, until we see that the Pokémon in this expansion could change type by playing them with the right energy, just like Terastalization. If this is all just a coincidence, take me to jail. Coming from a Legends edition based on the 4th gen, but inspired by the 2nd, there is no need to mention the obvious link between both of them, one that would make it especially appropriate to center future games in Johto. Both editions have similar periods in the timeline, a platform if we look at the remakes, even the enigmatic Sinjo ruins that make it clear that there is a link between the two, one that goes far beyond to the very core of the game. According to the words of Junichi Masuda himself, the 4th gen represents the world of a distant future, an ideal and luminous world in which the hearts of people from all corners and places, cultures, languages, and thoughts unite and beat in unison, represented ultimately by the Wi-Fi connection. The 2nd gen, on the other hand, also speaks of respect for tradition in harmony with progress, with the time capsule, the GS ball, and Celebi as symbols of the convergence of generations and a common vision of a better future. What better region than Johto to get to know a new future together with Celebi. A game with a similar style to what Legends did, but in the opposite way, seeing descendants of known characters, regional forms that respond to the geographic and demographic changes that occurred, and a different relationship with the pocket monsters. Going back to Lugia and Ho-Oh, they are Pokemon that represent the close bond between people and Pokemon, which would make them perfect pieces for this story. In the past, they lived in harmony with humans, but a terrible event caused them to lose trust in people until a chosen young trainer managed to restore it many generations later. But with the decades and centuries, humankind would lose its old values and the link with Pokemon would gradually weaken, giving these Pokemon, in an unexpected twist, the role of enemies of all humanity. Shadow Lugia might have been a hint of all this. In that world of hypocrisy and corruption, the protagonist of these possible editions would have the role of proving to the legendaries that there are still people with a soul of silver and a heart of gold in whom to trust for a better future. Even without talking about the concepts and theories regarding Scarlet and Violet Paradox Pokemon, such as their designs or what they might be hiding, it would make sense for a game on the same platform to share these aspects. In the same way that the 6th gen kept in its 2 games, X and Y and the Hoenn remakes, the new mechanics of Mega Evolution. Maybe new Paradox Pokemon, expanding the concept seen in the 9th, because what region could be more suited to generate these paradoxes than Johto? Once again, with the time capsule invented by Bill or Celebi, traveling through time and causing time distortions. Let's be honest, Legends Johto would not be the most unexpected move. The fan-made trailer made by my friend Yasir is one of the most viral in the Pokemon community in recent years, and a Johto from the past, with all its legends in their full glory, would really be something worth seeing. But of course, that doesn't seem to be the way Game Freak has been doing things for a long time. When everyone was expecting Pokemon Gray, the sequels Black and White 2 were released. When we were waiting for Z, well, nobody came. When Eclipse was expected, the Ultra series arrived, then Sword and Shield with their DLCs, and finally, Legends Arceus broke any possible expectation. They seem to have a clear pattern of wanting to do just that, breaking the expectation, and while it would be foolish not to continue with a more experimental line such as Legends, which allows them to approach the series from points that add a lot of depth and serve as a testing ground for future mechanics that the main line may integrate, I think that in the future it's very likely that they will continue it, not by going to the predictable, but in an unexpected way. And what better than instead of another trip to the past, this time we take a look at the future, closing a perfect cycle for which this generation would serve as a bridge. Perhaps, although it's the spiritual sequel to Legends, it won't even have that name. Anyway, no one knows for sure what the future will bring, but I hope it has a lot of light to offer us. Subscribe so you don't miss the next videos, and remember to smash the like button and comment to support the channel. See you soon.